More than once, I've mentioned music labels in which I want some male seiyuu to debut for. Music labels that offer creative freedom, others that don't. Music labels that, for some weird reason, don't know what they are doing. Music labels open to overseas fans and music labels that don't care at all about their talented international fans. Well, truth is, there are a lot of music labels in Japan. Not all are welcoming to male seiyuu and 2D music projects, but for every 4 music labels that aren't fond of them, there is one music label that is specialized in distributing anisong, 2D, and music by male solo artists. So in this episode, I will give you a rundown of the most important music labels for male seiyuu and 2D music. Let's kick off this episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Welcome to Seiyuu Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and today's topic is male seiyuu and 2D music labels, part 1. Talking or writing about music labels is something that I do with some frequency. If you've watched or listened to episode 29 of Seiyuu Lounge, I was mentioning quite a lot of music labels in the solo debuts corner. As a fan of voice actors, I follow their endeavors in the music industry with quite some attention. I can't help but to notice patterns in some music labels in the names they sign, the music genres that their artists perform, or the vibes that they have going. At the same time, all these years following music by male seiyuu and 2D projects has led to me being wary of certain music labels for their weird practices or bad artist management. With that in mind, in this and in the next episode, I will go over the main music labels for male seiyuu and 2D music projects, the music genres more common in each, issues they may or may have not had connected to male seiyuu and or 2D music projects, and whether there is creative freedom or not in those. Let's go! Music labels, what they are, and types. In simple terms, a music label is a company that is in charge of representing and managing an artist, be it solo, group, or band, and distribute their music. Music labels have marketing teams ensuring that their artist is seen and heard, and have the connections to promote them on radio, TV, magazines, and the sort. They have big legal teams that ensure the music rights are protected and no one makes money off of their music illegally. This is why some illegal downloads websites are often hit by cease and desist emails and, in some extreme cases, have their websites taken down by the MCA. Music labels can be major, minor, indie, or independent. The biggest changes are in the resources and money each type of music label has at their disposal to help an artist stand out. Major music labels like Sony Music Japan, King Records, Sakura Music, which is a Sony Music sublabel, Nippon Columbia, Victor Entertainment, Evil Line Records, which is a King Records sublabel, Avex, Lantis, Toys Factory, Pony Canyon have the resources to make a project or solo artist big. These music labels give larger advances, which is money to use, to artists to compose and produce their music, and hire session musicians to perform in their CDs. These advances, of course, have to be paid back in full to the music label through CD sales. Believe it or not many solo artists signed to major music labels manage to pay back the music labels in question for the advances and get some money for themselves. For that, they need to sell a lot. Many are constantly in the red, not making enough money to cover for their production costs. On episode 8, When I said that Mamoru Miyano and Soma Saito are the two best-selling solo artists among male seiyuu, I mentioned that they have made with their best-selling albums, Eminem Best and Quantum Stranger, respectively, a bit above $500,000 each in sales. Those values were only estimates counting regular editions only, and we all know that many people purchased limited editions which are more expensive. If you count limited editions and alternative ones, their earnings skyrocket. Also, it doesn't count sales to international fans through CD Japan or Yes Asia, so there's that as well. To put it simply, both are sales monsters. Artists like Miyano and Saito that frequently sell over 10,000 copies of their CDs consistently pay those advances back to their music labels and make some money of their own. However, please don't think that just because an album made $500,000 in sales, that the seiyuu in question gets $500,000 for themselves. That doesn't happen. They are lucky if they get $100,000 for them. Don't forget, they have to pay session musicians for their performances, studio time, designers, stylists, makeup artists, video crew for music videos, marketing efforts that, despite being sourced within the music label, still need to be paid. Depending on their contracts and the exceptions that are specific to each artist, they may earn more or less in royalties. If you compose and write your music, your earnings skyrocket. You can already guess who, out of both, makes the most money in royalties alone, can't you? It's Saito. Not only does he earn mastering, but he also gets composition royalties, as he is the one that writes and composes his music. I'll leave that talk about royalties for another episode, but for now, that's a point for you to have into attention about royalties and major music labels. Now back to what I was saying. Major music labels have, in-house, the best composers and lyricists to create music for their talents. They have marketing teams that can make their music reach more people. They have leverage in the marketplace, having connections on TV channels, magazines, FM radio shows, and other media outlets, enabling their artists with opportunities to score interviews or covers on magazines or spots on TV. They have the money to invest on big tours or elaborate live shows. They have a strong social media team that is active. Major music labels are the top of what you'd want for your favorite voice actor or 2D music project. These music labels aim at having their artists on top nationwide and will do everything for that to happen. It is questionable, however, if an artist has or not creative freedom under a major music label. That is a case-by-case situation that I will elaborate a bit on in a couple of minutes. Minor music labels like Marin Entertainment or Art Sonic serve as a gateway for solo artists and seiyuu units to make themselves heard within a certain niche. They don't have the same resources, management is at times questionable as, chances are, there are only 1 or 2 artist managers in charge of all talents. The producers and composers are usually of a lower quality. Still, there are, at times, awesome composers, producers, and lyricists working for these music labels. So that's not a rule. Minor music labels usually are pretty focused on a niche market, more than hitting all places nationwide. Chances are, if your favorite voice actor, seiyuu unit, or 2D project is signed to a minor music label, they will never get to be on the spotlight like artists and projects in major music labels. They may still get, from time to time, a feature on a magazine or a radio feature, but you won't see them scoring any promotional time on national television. Indie music labels such as Toshiyuki Toyonaga's Tease Music and Sir Vanity's Vanity Records are all about their own artists. They usually are what you'd call independent endeavors for those artists. Their music labels only manage and represent them. By the end of the day, they can have a full-on professional music label format, like Tease Music, that even has social media staff and the sort, or be a bedroom music label, basically managed by the band themselves, in which they do everything by themselves, something that I believe is still what happens with Sir Vanity. These music labels are big on creative freedom, and most artists signed to them are usually songwriters and lyricists, not needing to outsource music or lyrics from other people, which in return saves those artists or bands a whole lot of money in production costs. These are also the music labels with the less resources, doing everything on a budget. Safe to say that artists signed to indie music labels don't score features on magazines, nor are invited for TV specials or FM radio interviews. They have a niche following, and it is for that niche following that they promote their music. Although not a must for an artist to be successful, being signed to a major music label is a sign that the music label considers that the talent in question has the potential, the clout, to be successful. Also, they've noticed the interest of fans on social media and the music industry in that talent. This, especially when applied to male seiyuu, means that the more popular you are, the higher the chances of scoring major label contracts. Look at Yuma Uchida, Soma Saito, and Makoto Furukawa. That's King Records, Sakura Music, and Lantis, the three biggest and most important music labels for male seiyuu and 2D music. Or Gakuto Kajiwara with Avex, which is a big music label, however, with less importance for male seiyuu and 2D music projects than the previously mentioned music labels. And Toshiki Masuda with Toys Factory. In the opposite direction, look at Masatomo Nakazawa, U-Make, and Kenji Nojima. That's Marine Entertainment, which is a minor label, Artsonic, which is a minor label, and a self-published indie label. But you'll say, U-Make are popular, why are you putting them in the not popular pool of artists? Yes, they are popular. However, their popularity at the time of signing the contract was what dictated their music label, and since then, they haven't changed music labels despite their popularity, which means they are pretty okay with where they are. Still, have in mind that being signed to a major music label means that it expects a lot from that artist, and if they don't perform accordingly to expectations, they can be dropped, or their management starts to get a bit dodgy. Going to major music labels that are seiyuu friendly, Lantis, King Records, Pony Canyon, and Sakura Music, helps a lot, making those expectations being a little bit more realistic, and there are, at least to my knowledge, no cases of solo artists of seiyuu background that were dropped by their music labels for underperforming sales-wise. Now let's talk about the music labels themselves. Please know that I won't be talking about all music labels out there. There are too many in Japan, too many involved in a way in 2D music and solo artists. Victor Entertainment and JVC. They are a relatively well-known music label that counts with a lot of J-pop artists in their roster. Victor Entertainment is best known among male seiyuu and 2D music fans as a music label in charge of distributing I Choose music. Although there is not enough data including seiyuu and 2D music projects, it is safe to say that creative freedom is not a thing in this music label. I am of course basing this on how the music label counts with a lot of idol groups in its roster, and you can count on the fingers on one hand the groups that consistently compose or write lyrics to their music. Once again, there's not enough data to make this a set-in-stone detail about this music label. Avex. Top 2 biggest music label in Japan, Avex is a well-known music label counting with a lot of J-pop idols and K-pop artists in its ranks. It is best known for housing the Paradox Live franchise, Wataru Hatano and Gakto Kajiwara. Avex is an odd music label when it comes to seiyuu and 2D music projects. Since 2017, and believe it or not, because of Yuri on Ice's sudden massive popularity and consequent piracy boom, the music label decided to embargo the sale of music by their artists to international fans. But not by any artists, just those signed to Avex Pictures were the target of that exports ban. That means Wataru Hatano and Yutaku 2 back in 2017, and now Paradox Live and Gakto Kajiwara can't export their music and international fans are left hanging. Avex are quite contradictory in their behavior, stopping sales to international fans but making the same music that they could be selling but refuse to, available for free on streaming platforms. Do they know how much is streaming revenue? In my understanding of business and how music labels work, this is a strange course of action to stop piracy or whatever they wanted to stop back then. Piracy hasn't stopped since then. We all know that. Hatano, Kajiwara, and Paradox Live's music can be found with some ease on illegal downloads websites out there. Streaming hasn't stopped piracy as well for their artists. So, Avex's choice for an international embargo still doesn't make any sense. I've wrote it in 2017 and I'll say it again, if that was a measure to counter piracy, it backfired on them. Paradox Live is popular but international fans don't have easy access to the music, well, aside from streaming it, yet never owning their own copy. Imagine if Avex focused as much as Evil Line Records on the international fandom when it comes to the music. Paradox Live could be much more popular than it is. Instead, it continues in the shadow of Hipgnosis Mic and won't likely leave that place if Avex insists on embargoing sales. Wataru Hatano struggles sales-wise in Japan and now not even international fans can purchase his music. Gakto Kajiwara is just starting out and as a rookie, every single physical album sale is important, yet he can't sell his music to his international fans. This sounds like a pain, doesn't it? Well, that's because it is. If your favorite seiyuu or 2D music project is with Avex, rest assured that they will be well promoted in Japan. However, overseas fans will never be able to own physical copies of their CDs, at least through legal ways. Kiramune. Lantis's sister music label, Kiramune, is all about male seiyuu. They only sign male seiyuu talents. However, contrary to Lantis, their focus isn't on having them perform any song, although they can, and some have, but on nurturing pop artists of seiyuu background. They are big about bubbly pop music and all their talents having a youthful, refreshing vibe. This is a music label that caters to male seiyuu fans and most specifically fans of peppy pop music. Their talents lack creative freedom in their first years as artists, but with time, Kiramune hands them more freedom, and you have artists like Miyuirino, Nobuhiko Okamoto, Tetsuya Kakihara, and Trignal composing or writing lyrics to their songs. Voice actors that join Kiramune and are no longer rookies can have creative freedom from the get-go. Just look at how Takuya Guchi has written lyrics to 4 out of the 6 songs on his debut mini-album, Egoism. Pony Canyon. Pony Canyon have in recent years been betting a lot on 2D music projects, with the A3 franchise and solo artists with Jun Fukuyama, Hiro Shimono and Shunichi Toki in their ranks. They are known for housing all types of solo artists and bands, so there isn't a music genre that defines this music label. Creative freedom is a possibility for their artists. Just look at how Fukuyama performs EDM, Shimono performs rock, and Toki has been exploring jazz and 60s rock. Marin Entertainment. By far the worst music label, Marin Entertainment is the epitome of bad management. They are known as a minor label that houses plenty of seiyuu units, usually stemming from radio shows. They are known for their relative creative freedom and EDM-centric sound. But from time to time, there's a project that strays away from that and performs rock music. DAT and Elekita Round Zero are, to this date, and even after disbanding in 2020, their most successful acts. M4 and Kashikomi are also signed to this label, and as you could expect, not a lot of people knows about their music. Why? Marin Entertainment do not have music from their artists on streaming platforms, as simple as that. At the same time, they are a music label that only 1 or 2 days before the CD release is when they decide to unveil the cover art and highlight medley for that specific release. I don't know about you, but I feel like they must not get many pre-orders, because how will you pre-order something you know nothing about? Only die-hard fans of the seiyuu in those projects will pre-order in Marin Entertainment's case. Despite having a sort of collaboration going on with Animate Japan, Marin Entertainment doesn't promote their artists. Their social media activity is far from optimal when you want to promote your artists. There's postponed releases due to production issues. Well, DAT and Elekita Round Zero, in a time in which social media still didn't play a big role, still got more promotion than what M4 or Kashikomi have. Which is sad, to say the least. Good as a starting point, but if you want to make it especially big, you're better off creating your own music label. Frontier Works. The music label that manages their artists until they feel like it and then go silent. They are known for housing the Ensemble Stars franchise and being the music label in charge of Takuya Sato's solo career. Now you ask, Takuya Sato has a solo career? He does. However, since 2018, Frontier Works hasn't said a word about what has happened to his career. Sato wasn't a solo artist that sold a lot, but he was consistent. For example, he's consistently ranked within top 40 on Oricon's charts. How come his solo career suddenly stopped? Yeah, I don't really know. No word on Sato's solo career, but one can imagine that this silence means Sato's solo career is no more. Or is no longer signed to them and doesn't want to keep going as a solo artist. Still, that's an awful lot of silence, especially when it would be in their best interests capitalizing on his popularity due to Idolish 7 and most recently Moriarty the Patriot. On the other hand, Ensemble Stars is well managed, sometimes I think overmanaged. Way too many music releases per year, way too many CDs one after another, almost no time to rest. It seems like they are desperate and don't want to stop even for 1 month, afraid that people will forget about the project. For solo artists, they are absolutely disastrous. For 2D projects, let's just say a bit too enthusiastic. Now, this was just but a fraction of the intensive rundown on the most important music labels in Japan for male seiyuu solo artists and 2D music projects that you'll get from me. So far, I hope you enjoyed it. Some of the music labels I talked about in this episode aren't the big, shiny examples of good music labels. Some are decent entry points for male seiyuu, others end up being their home for the duration of their careers or the projects. After all of these, I don't want you to think that label A is bad because of this or that. I want you to understand that there are music labels that could use some revamp and pay better attention to their talents, promote them better, something that is quite easily done in this day and age, in which having a smartphone and working internet is as easy as saying 1, 2, 3. I also want you to understand that I was talking in a rather superficial way, as good and bad music labels are also defined by the terms in the contracts with their talents, and unfortunately, since I don't have access to those, I was only analyzing from the outside and based on what we know they usually do with their talents. Now tell me, is your favorite seiyuu a solo artist? If yes, in which music label is he? What do you think about the way the music label is promoting him? Let me know in the comments below, and remember, leave your comments as complex or as simple as they may be, as you can be featured on upcoming episodes of Seiyuu Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the Hand That Feeds HQ's weekly male seiyuu and music related content, hit the subscribe button. I'll return next week with another episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Thank you for listening and see you guys around.